Thursday, November 28th, 2019, MONERO 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Happy Thanksgiving again to my viewers in the States. This is my second video today. It required another video, the subject, and this is only my opinion. I'm not saying I have proof that this is going on, but I will go out on a limb and say that Goldman Sachs looks like they are bailing out Deutsche Bank through the back door. And why would an American bank bail out a big German bank? Well, because you need to understand that the big international banks, that's what they are, international. Goldman Sachs is an American bank, but they're more international than anything. They're more global than anything. And so is Deutsche Bank. They're part of the too big to fail banks, part of the BIS regime, Bank for International Settlements regime. And I've spoken about this in the past, maybe 6 months ago, maybe earlier in the year. I don't remember exactly when. It's hard to keep track of the time and all the subjects that one covers, right? But one thing I noticed was this, and I'll show you. The major institutional shareholders in Deutsche Bank. And I took this from Yahoo Finance. As you can see here, top institutional holders of Deutsche Bank stock, right? And if you look here at number 4, you get Goldman Sachs Group, Inc. They own 1.74% of Deutsche Bank, right? And there's another institutional investor here that I will talk about, Stephen Feinberg, or Feinberg Stephen. He owns 3% of Deutsche Bank, right? And we'll come to him later. It's very interesting as well. I think it was yesterday or the day before, I received an alert. I have a Seeking Alpha app on my phone, seekingalpha.com. They cover the markets. And I got this story. Deutsche Bank, right, offloads 40 billion pounds of assets to Goldman, right? November 27th. So it was yesterday. It was early yesterday. It says here, as part of a major overhaul, Deutsche Bank has sold 40 billion pounds in unwanted assets to Goldman Sachs. So why would Goldman Sachs, a bank that's been so successful, so influential for many decades, want to buy unwanted assets? This also says the assets are tied to emerging market debts and were previously housed in Deutsche's wind down unit. In September, Goldman also purchased the Asian portion of a portfolio of equity derivatives the German lender had put up for sale. So there you go. And you read about this, right? And you think about what the New York Fed has been doing since September with the repo market and the reverse repo market, right? The hundreds of billions it's pumping into that market overnight and on a term basis, right? The 60 billion in QE, that's not tied to the repo. That's different. Don't forget, 60 billion in QE every month, right? That it's announced. Who's benefiting from that? Well, Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank to some extent as well, but they need to get rid of their, how can I say, toxic assets, right? So Goldman Sachs, who's a primary dealer as well, they're getting this largesse. And what have they done? They've bought unwanted assets, over $50 billion from Deutsche Bank. So yes, I think they are bailing out Deutsche Bank through the back door. I know the other side of the argument is that Goldman Sachs would want Deutsche Bank to fail so they could buy them on the cheap. But my view and a lot of other people's view is that if Deutsche Bank goes, the whole system goes, right? So Goldman Sachs can't afford that to happen, nor can JP Morgan. And why not JP Morgan? Because in the past, JP Morgan has bailed out or helped bail out other institutions. I remember Bear Stearns, well, they were going to go under. The New York Fed helped JP Morgan bail out or take over Bear Stearns in 2008, March 2008. That's when gold made a top at 1,031 on that day, right? So, yeah, back then it was fine for the Fed to do that because there hadn't been the crisis yet. Well, the crisis was starting, but we hadn't had the Lehman collapse, all the bailouts, right, of AIG. But now they can't come out and say the New York Fed is helping Goldman Sachs bail out Deutsche Bank, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Goldman Sachs buys out Deutsche Bank in the future, right? Who knows? But, or who knows, hopefully this house of cards will implode and Deutsche Bank and Goldman and all the rest will come down with it. But as of now, they're still around. So what about Steve Feinberg? He holds, as I said earlier, let's see, 3% of Deutsche Bank stock, right? So who's Steve Feinberg, or Stephen Andrew Feinberg? American businessman and investor who is active in hedge fund management and private equity. He is known for turning around struggling businesses and making them profitable. He's co-founder and chief executive officer of Cerberus Capital Management. As of March 2019, his net worth is $1.5 billion. In 2017, Cerberus also owned DynCorp, which is a major national security contractor with U.S. government, charging billions for overseas military and police training. On 11th of May 2018, U.S. President Donald Trump named Feinberg to head the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, right? So what else has this guy done? Well, here we go. Political involvement. Feinberg is a major Republican donor. In 2016, he served on the Trump Economic Advisory Council during Donald Trump's presidential campaign, donated nearly $1.5 million to pro-Trump PACs, and hosted a $50,000 per person Republican National Committee and Trump fundraising dinner alongside other financiers. So, and then you get this story that came out, I think yesterday, yeah, on Zero Hedge, right? Senior ex-Deutsche Bank executive linked to millions in Donald Trump loans commits suicide. So this is really getting intriguing, right? I don't know what to make of it, but looks very, very interesting. What's going on? Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs, Donald Trump, right? But what is most remarkable is that according to a March 2019 report by the same David Enrich, he's a guy who's investigating all these suicides, right? Bowers was a boss to Trump's personal banker, Rosemary Vrablich, who, according to the New York Times, helped steer more than $300 million in loans to Donald J. Trump in the years before he was elected president, right? So I'll put a link to this article below in the description. You can go through it. I don't want to go through the whole thing, but there's something going on here. We've got the New York Fed pumping hundreds of billions, right, overnight terms, QE into the market for technical reasons, right? We've got Goldman Sachs buying unwanted assets from Deutsche Bank, right? We've got people committing suicide from Deutsche Bank connected to Trump. We've got one of Trump's biggest donors holding 3% of Deutsche Bank, right? What's going on? So there you go. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Make sure you share this video far and wide as well. And yeah, enjoy your turkey dinner and Thanksgiving, and I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.